Nuburu is leading the transformation to a world of high-speed, high-quality metal machining and processing. Nuburu's groundbreaking blue laser technology has defined a new class of high-power, high-performance blue lasers. And with me is Brian Canale, the Chief Executive Officer, to explain all about these lasers and what they mean for people. So welcome, Brian. And I guess let's start there. What does Nuburu do? Tell me about the company.
Jane, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Great to be with you. So Nuburu is a developer and a manufacturer of industrial blue lasers that leverage fundamental physics and high brightness design to produce faster and higher quality welds and parts than current lasers can provide in laser welding, additive manufacturing, in copper, gold, aluminum, and other industrial essential metals. Our industrial lasers produce minimal to defect-free welds, 8 times faster than the traditional approaches, with all the flexibility inherent to laser processing. So, Jane, what we really leverage when we say fundamental physics, we produce the smaller spot size versus infrared lasers, superior brightness, and higher absorbency in these key materials. So gold, we're about 66 times faster and more absorbent. Copper, we're 13 times more absorbent. And silver, we're 17 times more absorbent. So why do I leverage those, or why do I reference those? Those are kind of the key building blocks in what we term to be the electrification wave. So the EV or e-mobility and EV batteries that go anywhere from trains, automobiles to bikes, scooters, and different things like that. So they're the building blocks for all of those. They're also very prevalent inside of medical devices and electronic, personal electronic equipment.
Very interesting. So this will play a role in the energy transition to clean energy. Who are your customers?
So, Jane, we can kind of list a few. We've got several NDAs, but we signed an agreement with a medical device company by the name of Blue Acre out of the UK. And really, they are a lot like us, startup. They are producing the medical devices. So that's one. We have sold our series of systems into Europe for a battery and a EV battery manufacturer, as well as into Japan for the same thing, for battery and high-powered EV battery systems. So again, unfortunately, on both the European sale and the Japan sale, we're under NDA. Love to say it, but again, critical needs outside of kind of all the U.S. Specific areas.
Well, and of course, we know globally, as well as in the U.S., there's rising demand for lower energy, lower emissions. What value do these lasers provide to the companies, to your customers?
Absolutely. So, as we said a little bit before, our value proposition is really what we can do inside of that absorbency and inside of those reflective materials. So, Jane, when we talk about speed and we talk about being more absorbent, what we're really talking about is lower energy usage and less material loss. So in our mind, it is a better value proposition, lower cost of ownership, if you will, for those customers. So again, less loss of material. If you've probably been, as a lot of your viewers have been, around welding, applications, and you see the sparks. That's material loss. And so really what we are able to do is minimize that with our, little to no defect welding and higher speed. The higher speed, Jane, obviously is, we don't have to pull as much power, and apply that to that particular application. So again, lower total cost of ownership.
Very interesting. Explain the different markets that you're working with.
Absolutely. Very large markets. We talked a little bit about the e-mobility. Jane, that's wide ranging from, everything from kind of the car, obviously the automobile, everybody understands that. But there's also initiatives to go into trains and into airplanes. So mass, transportation, all the way down to personal transportation, besides the automobile, the bikes, also the scooters. So that's e-mobility. That's a huge market. Consumer electronics, the phones, computers, televisions, and their ancillaries. A lot of wire bonding, a lot of highly reflective materials go in there, and finally healthcare. A lot of on healthcare, there's disparate metals that they are bonding together, that really we can bond because of our absorbency, where they may have to do some kind of bonding agent that has the potential to kind of flake off and create adverse impacts. So in ours, we can go and affix those two together rather than having a third piece to that. So again, those are our big markets: e-mobility, consumer electronics, healthcare, and obviously the defense and government contract. We were lucky enough, if you will, to win, 2 phases with NASA. We announced our 2nd phase earlier this year as well.
I was just going to ask you about the NASA award. So explain what that is for. And are you going to take Nuburu to the moon?
Well, partnering with NASA, we may, Jane. So, we certainly would like to have that as part of the goal. But, really what we're trying to do is, NASA is working on how to land, obviously a terraform on the moon, transporting wire or raw materials to the moon is prohibitively expensive. And what we're really talking about here, Jane, is the need to kind of produce power on the moon, as well as kind of do, I'll call it information packets, whether that is just basic information or kind of strategic information. So in order to avoid, transporting all of that wire and all that material, what the blue laser can do, and what we are, proposing to do, is a couple of things: is produce power, on the moon for any number of different things. So sending electricity, between one power source to another power source, as well as data packets between one location to another location. So from that standpoint, you avoid the weight, if you will, of transporting all these raw materials, wire, up to the moon. Obviously you're going to have potential issues with, out there in the moon on, interference. But again, that is kind of what we're doing. Phase 2 is looking really to kind of build on phase 1, which we demonstrated the technical and commercial feasibility of this technology there. They, obviously NASA was good with that, but really we want to scale up the power and range and performance of that blue laser beaming technology. And again, there's also an element of this, that the single mode laser, which is kind of like our next step from our BL. It's much more precise, much more high powered, and really, can we develop that with NASA and put that onto the moon?
Okay. Now let's talk about your press releases out recently, where you're announcing a strategic reverse stock split, and you're relisting to the New York Stock Exchange, Amex. Talk about that. Where is that in the process? Why was that a good business decision?
Absolutely. So the last several months, we've been realigning and refocusing our business and operations. We're beginning to see the positive result of these intense efforts. We are seeing the increased orders that we talked a little bit about before. We have seen a sales cycle, that can take 12 months or longer. We've realigned our workforce, and we've reduced our debt by 25%. So we are pursuing a wide variety of transactions to again, further optimize our balance sheet, and get ourselves into good funding relationships that are critical to emerging growth company like Nuburu. As part of this overall, recalibration, Jane, we have gained authorization to do a reverse split of 1-40. Right, our effective date will be July 10th, and stock would be trading on July 11th on a stock split adjusted basis. We believe this will benefit the shareholders by reducing the number of outstanding shares and increasing the share price, making the stock more appealing to institutional investors and analysts who tend to avoid stock at low prices. Additionally, it will help the company continue to satisfy the minimum price requirements for listing on the New York Stock Exchange and make it easier for institutional investors to compare Nuburu's stock price with its peers. You know, at its core, the reverse stock split does not affect the company's fundamental value or proportional ownership to shareholders.
Okay, makes sense. And always hard when you've got a new technology and a new company to get that traction. So it takes longer than you think. So thank you, Brian, so much. Fascinating to hear about lasers and what they're doing and what they can do in the future.
Jane, thanks for the time, and I appreciate the insights.
Thank you.